Well, hello. Welcome to the shores of Huntington Beach, California. Let me adjust this a little bit. My name is Kurt, and I'm going to read now from my book, Going Alone, particularly the chapter titled, No, My God is a Little God. If I get this just right. Oh, that's better. And this is a chapter that I wrote to expound upon my lack of deity. Not really. It's funny, when I was writing Going Alone, and when I was experiencing the adventure of going alone, I would periodically bring up the idea of God in my mind as a foil against the backdrop of the emptiness that I was discovering in the deep desert. And I would imagine that stark, quiet emptiness with a deity within it that only existed as a result of the human conception. This is the small deity that I call my little God, lowercase g, deliberately identifying it in that way as non-existent, a non-entity, reliant, a piece of fiction reliant upon my imagination. So it would periodically pop up in my writing. I would do this seemingly impromptu bits of writing along the way, and the concept of this little deity would appear, and I eventually realized that I had created another character for the book, an important character, because, like I said, it's the piece of me that objects to the universe without guidance, and it objects to the universe that doesn't give a damn, and cautions me to not go too far in that direction for the nihilism that awaits. Well, I didn't listen very much, and I went ahead and went in that direction, in the nihilism, and confronted the nihilism, in fact. And so what I did eventually was, and that's what the whole idea of Going Alone is all about, is confronting the emptiness and confronting nihilism. The problem. I just got a message from my wife. The last 2 nights in a rental car reserved. Great. It was the last part of our challenge to get ourselves in a Tommy. Good. I can't send her a thumbs up because we're doing this messaging, but I will after this. So anyway, the book was to confront the emptiness, address the nihilism, and figure out a path forward that didn't involve giving up on life. And that's the whole premise and idea behind my book. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. I'll go ahead and read the chapter. Some squish into the sand. My God is a little God, which is getting near the end. And that's good news that she's got the nights reserved. Yay. It's a short chapter, but it has some bits at the some bits of Muse comments, a lot of them actually. It's mostly that. Okay, here it is. So this is my book, Going Alone, and this is the chapter near the end. You can see it's almost done. My God is a little God, and it's got that picture of the home of faith, which is the cave that I found out in the desert. Parker, if you see this, that's the view from the inside of the cave that you and I spotted. Okay, my God is a little God, expecting nothing more. And a quote, "We have not yet encountered any God who is more merciful as a man who flicks a beetle over on its feet." Annie Dillard. I have come to realize that the muse I so often speak of, and which is the source and inspiration for so many of my thoughts, must be the same muse which heralds and inspires the words, music, thought, and motivation of the religious. A distinction, though, is that I apply and attribute no animating will to this contrived agency beyond the scope, breadth, force, and power of my own weak and faltering intellect and imagination. It is no wonder, then, that I neither trust my God's wisdom, guidance, or even its mere existence. My God is a little God, which can neither speak, write, argue, or even think without my own willful cooperation. Okay, here we go. Now from there, that's the bit of prose that I wrote that I interspersed with throughout the book. Most of the book, though, is this little. See this down here at the bottom in italics? That's the that is the notes from my muse. Here we go. My wife's sending me more messages. All right. Notes from my muse. I told my little god of the desert today. He'd never heard of such a place. I admired his honesty in fessing up his ignorance. This may be one of his stronger traits. He seemed afraid to learn of the solitude in the desert, and he asked me if any gods or spirits might be found there. I told him it seemed there are none in the wastes. I didn't bother explaining it's all wastes. And now there's a pause, and then there's another snippet. You can see all the little snippets here are separated by the tilde marks, and then that's like a little bit. Caring for a very small god isn't unlike tending a young child. Both are convinced of their omnipotence and immortality, and each at times rails at the world with an impressive wrath and fury. The difference being, the child possesses an anger they can truly inflict upon the world, while my little god relies on my belief to achieve even the slightest destructive end. My little god begged me today to believe in him. I think he's become suspicious his immortality is dependent upon my belief and patronage. Did someone tell him of his contingent existence? Has he learned the root cause of his being? How very afraid he must be. I told my little god that we were going to the desert tomorrow. He seemed unsure after I explained the place, carefully, so as to not offend his growing sense of omniscience. I told him the desert was a place for losing what we cherish and for gaining what we fear. He nodded slowly, muttering something about the need of a temple. I suspect he'll soon be very disappointed. My little god has no sense of his ignorance, which I reckon the greater measure of his omniscience. I told my little god about the helpful muse we might meet in the desert tonight and tomorrow. He wasn't at all pleased and complained of my holding another before him. It didn't help that I explained my muse is dead and not even real. Such threats he leveled at me then. Maybe when he meets the nothing himself, he'll realize how little there is to fear. Hold on, I need a little more tea. It's cold now that the sun has dipped behind the clouds, and there's a nice offshore breeze blowing, but it's a cold one. I've reached the near edge of the deep desert, and oh my, it's cold. I didn't come prepared for this, and I have still 100 miles to go before I reach Siberia and the safety of my desert camp. The sun's just now gone away, and I know the deeper cold is coming. This is scary, just like the summer heat which has now passed was scary. Only this scary burns in a way that brings on shivers and chattering teeth rather than delirium and fatigue. I'll bundle up now as best I can and turn on the motorcycle's heated hand grips, which are a peripheral comfort. My small god is noticeably absent now. Have I perhaps been forsaken? He's been pestering me for prayer. Maybe he thinks I'll relent in the wild. I've discovered my little god is afraid of the new horizon which I uncovered this weekend. Such irony that I've been hooked up with a domestic god, a deity of home and hearth, a god more comfortable behind a walled garden or a locked door than amidst the frontiers of creation. My little god wants nothing of the larger world and covers his ears when I speak of the great indifference. It's no wonder he's so jealous of others. His wrath now is no surprise. I wonder how we can reconcile our difference, find peace between his small heaven and the greater universe of reality. I suspect I'll simply need to leave him at home when I go out, let him alone with his certitude and finality. deny and protect him from the vast ignorance and reality which looms like a giant before us both whenever we step foot outside our door. My little God's insistence on immortality is striking given his additional claim to know everything. Shouldn't he understand his immortality cannot possibly survive my death unless I can find another to believe after I am gone? I didn't read that sentence well. Let me try that again. Shouldn't he understand his immortality cannot possibly survive my death unless I can find another to believe after I am gone? That's better. My little God came to me tonight trembling and asking after eternity. I told him I hadn't a clue and could offer no suggestions along these lines. He went away wide-eyed and perplexed. I'll bet he's going to make something up. A benefit of not believing in ghosts is that ghosts never come to scare me. Likewise, monsters, demons, and poltergeist. They all keep their distance. The supernatural seems to only haunt the willing, the skeptical mind offering seemingly infertile soil for what is not really there. My God is small because he has no ample space to live within my mind. Let me try that again. My God is small because he has no ample space to live within my mind. He'd probably be a great God if I'd only believe. He resides on a dusty and neglected mental shelf where I keep my credulity and faith, a place well illuminated with doubt to keep out the vermin. I was proud of that line when I wrote it. He'd be much happier on a shelf with certitude or belief, though it seems I've only enough to sustain the slightest of gods. And this is the last one. I awoke past midnight to walk barefoot through the dark. Not far from the tent, just enough distance to unsettle whatever comfort had seeped in from the warmth of my sleeping bag and the safety of my shelter. I so enjoy the feeling of letting go the rope to anything sound and settled. To drift for a distance, naked and shivering in the cold. To stand vulnerable beneath a vast and seemingly eternal canopy of stars. That's why I reject my muse, those ghosts in my little God. Less for the fact that they aren't real, and more for the desire to do without the false comfort their non-existence could never honestly provide. And that's it. It's a very short chapter, but it speaks very, I think, poignantly to the point that I was trying to make, and that my little God neither exists, and what I do make of it relies utterly on my own conception and, if I would, willingness to believe. And I guess it would be the willingness that would change it from a lowercase g God to a uppercase G God, in which case it's still just mere fiction and want, desire. And with that, I think I'm going to sign off. I've got a busy day ahead of me. Yumiko and I are going to go. We have to finish our preparations. I just got the messages from her that she booked us our last 2 rooms, and we got did she say we got a car too? A rental car? Do we need a car? Interesting. I think she did. And then I'm going to head home and we'll get started on our packing. But I wish you all the best. Remember to be safe, but not too safe. And with that, my life is done, if not finished. Bye-bye. Oh, hi, Michael. Hi, thanks for the live read. This is one of my favorite chapters. Oh, thank you, Michael. Oh, did I miss any other comments? You know, Michael, I appreciate the feedback, because I wasn't so, when I wrote this chapter, I was like, why? When I wrote this chapter, I was like, because I went through the book and I realized as I was writing the book that every now and then I would talk about my little God, right? And I thought, that probably belongs in its own little section, right? Because it's kind of different, and it says a different point, and put it at the end, right? Punctuation mark on my on my disbelief, on my observance of the great indifference, and my decision to I'm if the universe doesn't offer any damn meaning, I'm gonna make up some meaning of my own, and put against that the foil of a God that remains diminutive, because I refuse to believe, despite the want to make something up to fill the gap, right? I think you know what I mean. And it's a short chapter, but I think it puts an exclamation point on the position, hopefully. And thank you for the feedback, because that means a lot to me, because I wasn't sure when I compiled that chapter and put it together. I hope you and Brittany and the kids are having a great day. I mean it. It speaks to me. And Michael says, and my own feelings regarding the supernatural, and I put religion in that box. I think it's great. Thank you, Michael. I really appreciate that. I hope you and Brittany have a great day with the kids. I'm going to sign off. You would not believe how... Look at that guy shivering right there. Kind of. I'm cold too. And I'm going to head home, and we're going to start do a mock packing today and get ready to go. And I'll see you over on the Discord, okay? Take care. Bye-bye.